Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I wanted to share another Christmas DIY video for you using mostly Dollar Tree supplies, and I'm going to be creating some really cute wall decor or shelf sitters. And for this first project, I'm taking one of these Crafter Square galvanized metal tin buckets as well as an ornament, and all I'm doing is removing the stuffing that's inside this ornament. And then I'm also going to be using the image from this ornament, just using some scissors to cut apart that fabric. So once all the stuffing was removed, I'm just going to cut this little sack apart. And I'm just going to be utilizing that image from the front. I thought that was a cute design, and I thought it would make a really nice design for my metal tin bucket. And like I mentioned, I am making a arrangement of sorts using this tin, and I'm also using some Mod Podge to decoupage this piece of fabric onto my tin bucket. So what I'm doing here is just trying to fray the edges as best as I can. However, it was a little bit difficult because this fabric wasn't easily able to be frayed. So I struggled a bit with this, so I did have to kind of just keep playing around with it. You want to make sure that you cut a corner piece and then use your fingers to sort of tear in a downward motion, and hopefully creating that frayed edge. But as I mentioned, it wasn't, exactly perfect, but I did the best I could. So then I went ahead and used Mod Podge, and I applied a nice layer of Mod Podge onto the tin bucket, and then I spread my piece of fabric across that layer of Mod Podge. And then once that part was adhered, you're going to want to take more Mod Podge, seal your fabric down so that you are protecting it from lifting, and just to make sure that it has good adhesion. And if you find that your image is a little skewed, this would be the best opportunity to sort of position it in the right way that you need it to be while the Mod Podge is still wet. Then I took this Decrepit Dust by DIY, and then I wanted to distress the edges, just giving it that vintage antique look. And I just took a dry brush and then just dipped it into the powder, adding it to the corners and different parts of that fabric where I wanted it to look aged. The next thing I did was I took a piece of floral foam and then cut it down to size to fit the inside of my tin bucket. You're going to want to just cut a piece large enough to fill snugly inside this tin. Then taking a variety of Christmas picks, you're just going to want to cut them down to size and insert them into your foam. And then you're going to arrange your floral arrangement in a way that looks pleasing to you. So here I just took these sort of more rustic style pieces with the pine cones and berries and pine. So you can choose to use whatever type of florals or picks that you want for your arrangement. I'm going for more rustic here. I think it lends well to the look, the overall look, especially tying in with that fabric piece. So I also had this cute pick from Joann's, and this is like a rusty metal looking pick. I went ahead and used that with this arrangement. I thought it gave it that extra touch that it needed, and I really love that choice that I made to add that to this arrangement. Now I've also found this cute ornament in my stash. This is a cute little red truck with a tree on it, and I went ahead and removed that twine that was attached and then added it to my arrangement. I didn't glue this into place or anything, but you can certainly do so. I was able to just sort of squeeze it in between all my picks. Now, if you're planning on moving your piece around quite a bit, you may want to adhere it just to prevent it from falling. But if you will be decorating yours in more stationary way without it being handled or touched or anything like that, then it's safe to say that you can just sort of push it in among all of the greeneries. Then I took this red and white gingham ribbon and just made a simple bow and then hot glued that down into place. And don't forget to dovetail your edges just for that clean finish. I love how this little decor piece came out. I also added one final touch, and it was just a little green pom-pom. That was it for the first DIY. Let's move along to the second one. So I'm keeping with the same theme by making another wall pocket arrangement. And I'm taking another one of these Craft Your Square tin buckets and then adding another piece of floral foam into it. Pretty much the same principle as the first DIY. The only difference here is that I am choosing different types of greeneries or stems. And this one I decided on using this type of greenery. It does have pine cones just like the first one did, but this one is more or less attached to the actual pine stems. And I added some a variety of these sparkly looking greenery and bigger berries to it. And then I'm also going to be adding an ornament. This time it's the candy cane ornament and also a little like stake sign that's that has like a vintage looking design on it, which you will see here shortly. So again, this is pretty much the same idea as the first, but it's just a difference in the types of picks and berries that I use along with the embellishments. And here is a cute little sign that I'm using. This came from Walmart. I did pick this up last year. And it has like a vintage looking Santa on it. I think this was perfect just to add to this little display. It already had that little stake pick that you can poke right through. So it was the perfect size just to poke through that foam. I also took this ornament, which I already had on hand. And you can make your own little sign, you know, if you want. You can also use like some vinyl decal or rub-on transfers, whatever you have available to you, and add it, you know, to your little sign here, to your little bucket display. I'm not really sure why I'm calling it a bucket, but this little tin, you know, wall pocket. And I felt like it needed something at the bottom, so I took some baker's twine and just wrapped that around multiple times at the bottom, just adding a little bit more interest. And then I'm going to add one last piece of embellishment to the center of the twine, and that's going to be a rusty snowflake, which came from that same pick that I used from the first DIY. So all I did was just use one of those picks, or yeah, it's a pick, and then just cut off that cute little snowflake and then hot glued that down in the center of the twine. And I think that totally completed the look of this second wall pocket. I think it came out so adorable, and I just love how these both turned out, and I hope you guys like this idea. For the final DIY of this video, I'm making a sign or a wreath of sorts. It's not your traditional wreath, but it's essentially the same idea. You can use this on a front door, you know, on above a mirror or anywhere that you want to hang like a wreath. I'm using these unfinished ice skate cutouts from DollarTree. And my initial thought was to use this metallic looking white paint from Deco Art, but then I felt like it didn't pop quite enough. So I decided to use some chalk paint in Snow White color and just use that as my base, hoping that it will make that metallic paint color pop if I add it right over that. And that's what I'll do once this white paint was dry. So now that the paint has dried, I decided to add that metallic paint over this white chalk paint. Now it has a very subtle metallic look to it. It's not obvious, you know, when you're looking at it from a distance, but when you come up close, it's a little bit more obvious. Now I decided to go with some fine glitter, and after applying this metallic paint color, I then sprinkled on that fine glitter all over the paint. And I think it added that nice little touch. And, you know, I'm not huge on DIYing with glitter or anything like that, but this fine glitter just adds that nice little pop of shimmer that the ice skates needed. The next thing I did was use the crimson color chalk paint and painted the cuff of that ice skate as well as the snowflake. And this will give it that nice little pop of red. And then for the blades, I'm going to use Java chalk paint and just paint that right over the blades. So next up, I used a paint marker in this silver metallic color just to draw in where the laces would go and then sort of define the different areas of this ice skate. Now this was already like drawn into the wood cutout, and all I had to do was just basically paint over it wherever it was already drawn in. So it made it easy just to go ahead and do that, just follow the pattern that was already there. So again, just doing these little simple touches definitely brings out the design, the overall design of the ice skates, which I love. Now I didn't draw on the laces or anything like that. I thought about it, but you know, I was okay with how this looked. Now you can certainly go ahead and fill your laces and complete that look. But let's move on to creating the actual background or the wreath part of it. I took a variety of different green picks, pines and pine cones and things like that. You can choose the type of greenery that you want to use for yours. And I also found those 2 snowflakes in my stash. Those came from DollarTree like a few years ago. I haven't seen them this year, but I know they do carry them and they bring them back year after year. I thought that they would make a nice contrast to this and also add that nice snowy look to this wreath. So here I'm just trying to arrange my pieces to see exactly how I wanted to position all of my greeneries. Originally, I wanted to, you know, make it like the front and top part of this wreath. And then just put the ice skates at the bottom. But I decided to off-center it and just decided to do more like a sideways look. And this is kind of the direction where I was going. So I finagled around with the pieces a little bit before I actually glued everything down. And then once I had everything the way I thought it looked, you know, nice to me, I went ahead and started gluing down all my pieces. So since I was only able to find 2 of those snowflake ornaments, I did have to spread them out, make sure that, you know, I had good symmetry. And I did just add 1 to each side. And again, this just, you know, brings that white color to this and breaks up all of the other colors. And it also ties in nicely with the ice skates, you know, bringing your eyes up to the top of the wreath with that white color. So I also found this galvanized metal snowflake in my stash as well. And this other ornament with a star and those little jingle bells, actually they're pretty big jingle bells. So I needed only 2 just to add to my ice skates. And what I did was kept the twine that was originally on there and then just knotted it and then glued that down on top of the holes where you can see the ice skates had the jute twine hanging from before. So I just used hot glue to glue the jute twine right over that hole. And then I'll be covering that up here shortly. so it'll have more of a cleaner look. I took this twine, but it's like a thicker rope material, and that came from Walmart. And I like the look of that, so I decided to just make a bow out of that twine and then hot glue that on top of the jute just to cover up all of that messiness and also add that decorative element. And again, this is more of like a thick twine. It has a lot of layers to it, so it was really nice and added a little bit more bulk to this. Next, it was time to address this galvanized ornament. I removed that buffalo check ribbon that was attached to it. I wasn't going with that whole buffalo check theme in this DIY, so I just removed it because it didn't really go. And I'm going to be covering up that hole with baker's twine instead. But before I move on to that step, I took a paintbrush and just dipped it in some white chalk paint and added some white chalk paint here and there at the tips of the branches, you know, the pine branches, and different parts of this piece, you know, just adding it to different areas where I felt like snow might fall, so just making it look authentic looking. And then I also added some to that ornament as well. Next, I added some red berries. I felt like it needed some red up top because of all the red at the bottom. I like to do this with my DIYs. Usually when I have a certain color that I've used in one part of the project, I do like to bring up that same color to different parts of the project as well, just to sort of make everything more cohesive and, you know, tie in nicely together, a more unified look. So I just took these berries apart and just added them to different parts of this DIY wherever I felt like it needed that red. And off camera, I did add some snow to this charger plate. I took a paintbrush and just used the handle of the paintbrush, the tip of it, and just dipped it in some white chalk paint and then dotted some faux snow all over this charger plate, just again tying in like the snowy look and filling in that dead space, the little areas where it didn't have any design. And you'll see in the end, in the final reveal, how that ended up looking. Last but not least, I added a jute twine hanger to the back. Now, if you did not want to use this as a hanging piece, you can certainly, you know, leave this part out. You can just use an easel, like an art easel or picture easel or something. You can even just prop this against something like a wall or, you know, against something that can hold it up. But I always like to have the option of hanging things up. So I did add that jute twine hanger using some hot glue, and then I used scrap pieces of felt to reinforce the parts where I added the hot glue. So that completes this DIY. I hope you guys enjoyed these ideas that I shared with you today. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, as it does help my channel to grow and helps YouTube to push my videos out for others to enjoy. And as always, to my subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and supporting my channel. Let's take a final look.